Hello students, today we're looking at our 5th episode in our narrative writing series, but we're going to do things a little bit differently. Instead of looking at an actual component of how to write the essay, we're only going to look at a sample. We're going to head over to our favorite website for this series, which is Johns Hopkins University. They do an excellent job at cataloging great essays to give samples for the prospective students. Now notice that it says these entries are distinct and unique to the individual writer. However, each of them assisted the admissions reader in learning more about the student beyond the transcripts and lists of activities provided in their applications. Remember, that's ultimately your goal. You don't just want to reiterate everything that's already in your resume. You don't want to be talking about how you're getting straight A's all the time or how your GPA is a 3.7 or even a 3.3 or whatever it is, because they already know that. You want to give them something more unique. You want to go a little bit more in depth. So yes, you can use an activity that maybe you listed on your application, but you need to go more in depth with it. Really, you got to show them something that they won't know from your high school transcripts or from your application questions and answers. You want to show something more about you in depth in your essay. So on the Johns Hopkins University website, we're looking at the 2019 essays, and we're going to scroll down and look at Kyla's, mainly because I love the title, Community Service Isn't For Me. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read through it, and I'm going to make a couple comments on things that she's doing well throughout the essay in hopes that you can model it. Now, remember, every essay is different, so you don't need to sound identical to somebody else because that's not the point. The point is to be unique and original, so every college essay is going to be different from one another. So she starts off, I've recently come to the realization that community service just isn't for me. Now, before you start making assumptions, keep reading. This is gutsy. I really like this opening because it is drawing me in because, let's be honest, who in their right mind would say community service isn't just for me? Notice how quick that introduction is, though. She puts you right into the action immediately. She doesn't start off with background. She doesn't start off explaining who her parents are, who she is. She gets right into the thick of her story because you don't have much time to write down what you want to, so you need to start immediately. In September of my sophomore year, I joined a club called Build On that focuses on breaking the cycle of poverty, illiteracy, and low expectations through service and education. Little did I know, just 22 months and $57,794 of fundraising later, I'd be headed on a plane to the Kasungu district of Malawi to break ground on the construction site of a second village's first school. So this is telling me a little bit about this student, which is great. It's telling me that they're a philanthropist, that they want to do community service, especially in third world countries, and that they were heavily involved in fundraising. Now, chances are they put this on their application, but it's nice to know that she's going to go deeper into thought about this. Now, what I'm looking for, though, is something unique and original about this, because there are a lot of kids out there, especially ones that go on mission trips and do things like this, that write the very stereotypical essay of how you went to a third world country and it changed your life and you'll never take life for granted again. But more often than not, that comes off as disingenuous because it's not reflective enough. So I am hoping that she takes this idea and she's able to expound upon it and truly be reflective in her thinking and in the lessons that she learned. So she goes on, the experiences of immersing myself in the Malawian communities, of sharing the same straw-thatched mud brick homes of host families, of learning bits and pieces of the Chichewa language, of exploring the dynamics of multi-chief polygamous villages, have been the most enriching aspects of my education to date. Notice that that is so specific to where she was. Too often what I see students do when they're writing essays like this about a community service event is that it's very broad. Like, oh, I went and I built a school and the kids were happy and people were impoverished. But here, it's straw-thatched mud brick homes. Right? That is descriptive language. Learning bits and pieces of a specific language, the Chichewa language, of exploring the dynamics of multi-chief polygamous villages. That is telling you that this person learned a bit about the culture of this region and that it wasn't just, oh, look at all the poor people, and that it's been enriching to her education. I may have traveled a world away, but by the time I left, I was no longer an outsider. It's a nice sentence. To see my 8-year-old host sister, Esther. Now, I love that she's naming this person, because if you are talking about an event in which there's other people like this, give them a name. It's making it more unique and original, because she's the only person out of her peer group that would have met Esther. She's the only person out of all the applicants that can talk about Esther, because she's the only one that experienced it. So when you can, name the people that you're talking about. Don't just say, I met a child. Say, I met Esther, and describe them a little bit. I've done this before with previous students too. I had a student who wanted to write about hockey and was doing a lot of work with special education kids within a hockey camp and teaching them how to play hockey. Excellent idea, but they never once mentioned any of the kids that they interacted with, so it was way too broad. And quite honestly, I could write a broad essay about playing hockey with special ed kids. So she goes on, thirst for knowledge, as she meticulously traced letters of the alphabet into the sandy floor of her standard 2 school room. Makes me wonder what stories she'll teach or tell when she finally gets the chance to put pen to paper. Great sentence structure. Also, look at the vocabulary that the student's using. Words like meticulously. Goes on, to know my host mother, my Amai, will no longer have to tie strips of fabric onto public buses to know which ones to take home from the market, because she'll be able to read their destinations herself, reassures me the adult literacy program is empowering, another good vocab, women to be self-sufficient. These memories, though seemingly not monumental, drive me to go the extra mile now that I'm home. They fuel my passion for the case I'm investing in, legitimizing, great vocabulary, the work that I do. Now, notice that I absolutely love that, yes, she gives a bunch of description up here of what she was doing, and she's mentioning the people that she was in contact with and kind of what her organization did and the impact it had, but she also follows it up with how did it impact her. Because notice and remember that your college essays are about you. So I am very thankful that she is not just writing about the Malawian communities, that she's just not writing about Esther. Because as nice as it is, I want to learn more about Kyla. I want to learn more about the student that wrote this essay, not more about Esther. Same thing with your essays. If you're writing about a family member and how you look up to them, don't make it an essay about your grandma or grandpa. Yes, you could write about them, but remember, it needs to show something about you. It is your essay. It is your opportunity to show off you. Continuing on Trek, I have the ability to directly impact the communities in which we build. I strive relentlessly to confront the stereotypes of gender roles and female inferiority, volunteering to work besides men in the trenches of the foundation, though it's traditionally seen as a male-only job. So now this adds another layer too of being self-reflective, of knowing that she's a female doing all this, which adds a little bit more of impressiveness to this resume, but then also that she is aware of this and that she's deliberately trying to do these jobs alongside men. Furthermore, Bildon's arrival places a spotlight on the village, giving impetus, great vocab, for the people to highlight their needs in front of an audience of district legislators and international agencies. Our presence speaks to the idea that the people have a voice, and more importantly, their voice is being heard. This attention is a catalyst for change, inspiring the villagers to become assertive in the quest for aid in a way that giving a check never could. That being said, as well-intentioned as I may have been in committing to Trek, I also acknowledge that every one of the aforementioned factors is a priority of my own doing. So that's very self-reflective as well. So I'm hoping that this connects to her reasoning as to why community service isn't for her, because so far she's told us that she likes community service. The people of Malawi asked for a school, not a student. That's poignant. I'm not a professional architect or builder. I don't profess to being a superior individual. As charming of a companion as I can be, a little bit of humor, it isn't my presence in these villages that changes the people's lives. So why, I ask myself, did I incur the expenses to fly to Malawi for this endeavor instead of donating that money to hire skilled laborers in my place? So this is speaking to an incredibly mature idea and thought and question, and that is, she's now struggling with, was it worth going to help, or would it have been more beneficial for her to just donate the money to actually hire skilled laborers? She even notes she's not a professional in any of these things. She's limited in what she can do. They asked for a school, not a student like her. So not only is this well written and clever, but it now hit a very deep thought. And I think I know where she's going to go with this essay. but let's read her conclusion. It seems there comes a time in all of our lives when we find ourselves stopped at the crossroads. Sublimation, oh my goodness, big word, meets moral obligation, and taunted are we as we weight them head to head. For 2 years now, the NCHS chapter of Build On has accomplished many great things. But did we do the right thing? I think about it in the context of philanthropy overall. When is giving money better than giving time? Who benefits when I arrive as an unskilled laborer in a village? How do you measure positive contributions, and from whose perspective? I'm still wrestling with these questions as I strive to strike the right balance between making a contribution and raising awareness while maximizing the ultimate benefit to the recipients. Truly, community service isn't for me. It's for Esther and Amai and all the others I seek to serve. This is phenomenal. Look at the way that she ended. She tied her essay together with a bow, going right back to her introduction about community service just isn't for me, but it was also a play on words because she didn't really mean to say that she doesn't want to do community service. Instead, she's talking about that the community service isn't to benefit her, it's to benefit the people in which you are serving. So this essay has showcased a lot for this student. Intelligence, excellent writer and communicator, really gifted in that. Strong vocabulary. Now, they probably already knew that this person was intelligent because I assume her GPA is through the roof, right? We can tell that this is an intelligent human being. But in addition to that, we learn that she does care for people and that she is very observant of the people of which she's caring for. So she has a generous heart. That doesn't come through in the application. That doesn't come through in her high school transcripts. It does in this essay. So that's important. But then also, it shows how deeply reflective she is of her life, because though she loved her opportunity to do this, she is wondering and asking the right question. Is it the right thing to do? Is it the best thing to do? And so her level of maturity in reflecting on this is something that I've rarely seen in college essays. So this is an excellent essay. It has a little bit of humor, a little bit of wordplay, excellent vocabulary, and it truly shows me the type of person Kyla is. And that's what you want to do for your college essays. So as you write yours, try taking some of her ideas and make them your own. Now, that's not saying that yours needs to sound exactly like hers. Notice there was no dialogue in this one. Notice that she has longer paragraphs and it's more written like a traditional essay, but it's still fantastic. It's still a narrative. It's still using a lot of aspects that you can steal from her. Things like using strong adjectives and verbs. She did that throughout. She was very descriptive over everything that she was talking about. Her sentence structure was excellent. This was edited and revised. So those are two things you can implement. Use strong adjectives and verbs and edit and revise your work. And then number 3, focus on making your introduction and your conclusion coherent, right? Her introduction was very intriguing, and then her conclusion wrapped it up and basically answered the introduction. So read through this essay, read through other samples so that you can do a better job and be more effective showcasing who you are through your college essay.